All right, this morning I started out by reading a few posts on the Leopard Ate My Face subreddit. And in it, they're talking about farmers who are complaining about not having enough money and the prices of food going down, and how if they don't get government bailouts, they're going to fail. And the comments were brutal because most of these people, in reference to this particular article or post, are from Arkansas, deep red state. When people who vote red lose their food stamps, lose their Section 8 housing, lose all of their medical benefits, their Medicaid or Medicare, and then we wonder why. You literally voted for this. You decided that you were going to slap it to the libs and do this to yourself. And then you wonder why your business is failing, why things are the way that they are, where, excuse me, where the job market looks like crap, where wages have been stagnant for years, and inflation, well, it's destroying lives. All because people voted for this, because they thought that this wouldn't hurt them, that they were going to be immune to all of the bad things that were going to happen. If you don't believe we're in a depression or a recession, good for you. I wish I could live in that place. But every day that I wake up and I look at my bank account, or I have to go back to Pound Town at 8 o'clock in the morning, I think about it. I think about it every day. It's what I think about at night. Because last night I kept telling myself, what do I think about? Yesterday, while I was driving across the city and back and forth all over the place, as I was in my car, I was looking around at the way society's built, the segregation between the well off and the people who don't have anything, the person who's freaking out on substances at the bus stop because they don't want to deal with reality. That's why people do those things. People always wonder, it's like, well, why do people do that? Because they can't deal with reality. If your reality was based on you pushing around a shopping cart all day, would you want to be checked in? No. That's why most people check out at night. That's why drinking and substances are part of everyday life. Because we don't want to be here. We wish we could be somewhere else. While I was working on this, ads kept popping up for vacation resorts in California. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Do you really think that people that come here and read your newspaper have money to go on a vacation? They don't. If they're like Jennifer C., they realize that in 5 hours they're going to be in their car with no air conditioning, driving for Uber Eats or DoorDash for 8 hours to make a tiny bit of money. And that's the nature of being alive these days. You can't work Monday through Friday anymore. Saturday and Sunday are work days too. And it comes down to one simple reason for that. The dollar doesn't buy anything anymore. All right, let's get into our opening monologue. You ever notice how capitalism is like a toxic relationship? When you're broke, it's all work harder, pick up a side hustle, stop buying coffee. But when a billionaire screws up, suddenly the government is their sugar daddy, handing out bailouts like candy. You're out here selling your time by the hour, they're selling failure for profit. Tell me again how this game is fair. Well, that's the thing. Most people are coming to the conclusion that they may live in denial. Their toxic positivity has kept them going for decades. Things will get better. I just saw that someone won the lottery last night. That gets pros excited. When they see one person win the lottery, they think it's them. Even though you could play the lottery for 10 lifetimes in a row and never win anything. Those are the kinds of things that get people excited. Yesterday, while I was at the gym, there was a guy talking on the phone about how excited he was about his pro sports. And I'm like looking around thinking to myself, is this guy for real? But It's people's willingness to live in that denial, willingness to turn a blind eye to everything that's happening to them. I scroll through a lot of news articles. On the average day, I'm at least 6 to 10 different news sites, and I'm looking for evidence to validate my talking points here on this channel. But nowhere that you go, especially not Fox News, are they talking about the things that really matter in this country. No one wants to talk about it because talking about it means that you've already failed. I consider myself to live a failed life. I have no real housing. I don't have a real car. I don't have a savings account. And believe me, working at McDonald's isn't the road to gaining wealth. And there is no road anymore. If all the jobs are paying unjustifiable wages to people that can't get out of the way, because remember, that's the one thing we all have in common. We're all stuck in this system the way that it is. Not one of us can change the trajectory of our lives. There's no way to just say, you know what? I'm tired of being poor. I want to be rich. It's impossible. It's just like saying, I want free medical care or I want real medical insurance. You're not going to get it. You're going to get the designer imposter of everything, the crappiest version of food, the crappiest housing, and the crappiest job. And that's everywhere you go, even if you went to college. More and more people, especially young people, Gen Zers, are realizing I'm going to make the same amount of money if I go to college or not. Because people aren't getting educated in the things that they actually need. And AI, well, it's smart enough to do, I think it was professor level work at this point, is what I've heard them talking about. So, what job's left for you? Until the AI can stock shelves and clean the toilet and provide crappy customer service, in-person customer service, the jobs that are good paying, they're not for you. In fact, the creator of AI said that AI is going to cause mass unemployment because all the jobs that can be done by it will be done. That's going to leave millions of people with no way of trading their hours, their daytime hours, into pathetic paychecks. And that means that eventually, with millions of people unemployed, which there are now, just because they don't give us the numbers doesn't mean we don't feel it. Every one of us right now, including you, knows someone that's unemployed right now that can't afford to be unemployed. We all know a person that's working 2 jobs or 3 jobs and still not making it, slowly creeping closer and closer to living on the street. And living on the street includes living in your car. That's still homeless. So with that said, let's get into talking point number 1. When you stumble financially, you're told to budget better or work harder. But when Wall Street stumbles, the government sprints in with a blank check and bailout packages. That's the magic trick. Your suffering gets labeled as personal responsibility, while their failures get rebranded as too big to fail. Right now, the American public is failing royally. And no matter how much we see it and how much we feel it daily in our own bank accounts, no one seems to care. Our Cheeto in chief said he doesn't care if there are more poor people because of his decisions. He doesn't care if you're poor. He doesn't like you if you're poor. He doesn't even like you if you voted for him. So he's creating this world. It doesn't affect him in any conceivable way. It doesn't affect corporations or the wealthy. When inflation creeps up, and I don't think it's even creeping anymore, it's jumping up, it's clawing its way up. It only affects the people that don't matter. And when it starts affecting the people that do matter, all they have to do is complain to the right politician, and soon all of their financial worries will go away. It reminds me during the bug time how the banks were using that money that they were extracting the wealth extraction. And they didn't need it. That's what I don't get is that they give money to the people that don't need it. And to the people that do need the help, they tell you that there's no money. It's that way with every aspect of anyone who's not rich that needs help. Because if you're poor, it's your own fault. But if you're rich, it's also your own fault, right? But it doesn't get labeled that way. Poor people are something that are to be disgusted and shamed and not be a part of. Society doesn't like poor people. It doesn't like moochers. It doesn't like people who can't afford stuff. And because society feels so strongly against poor people, we are taught to associate poverty with invisibility. If you're poor, you don't matter. It's something that you need to deal with on a personal level. And all of you come into my comment section and talk about pulling up your bootstraps. But what do? When you pull up your bootstraps, it means you need a good job. Well, there isn't a good job because 14,000 people applied to that one good job and no one got it because chances are it was just a ghost job. It was just there to make the company look like it's growing and that it's healthy when the reality is that they're slashing and slashing and slashing jobs across this entire country. Why? Because it's not growing, it's shrinking. And all the jobs that we didn't want to do, millions of those people are gone. And no one's going to step in to do farming work. That plant that they raided yesterday and found all the South Korean immigrants, do you think they didn't know that they were there? You don't have 500 people working at an auto plant and not know that they're there. No one can say, oh, we didn't know that these people were doing all the farm work, all the hospitality work, all the meat packing work, all the work that is traditionally not done by Americans. You can't sit there and tell me that they didn't know that they were there. They do. But when it comes to certain industries, they had a tendency to look away because you need people who are willing to work for even less money than you and I. We don't want to work at McDonald's because there's no way we can pay our rent on $14.75 an hour. Most migrants will take whatever pay and whatever work conditions they can get because they know they don't come here to become the CEOs and executive officers of corporations. They come here in traditional slavery, which is becoming more and more the living style of the lower middle class, is traditional slavery. You can never make enough. You can never have enough. You can never get what you actually need out of the employment that you have. All it is a lifetime of suffering. And most people, and this is why I don't like music, because I remember my mom as a cleaning lady who would turn on the music and scrub toilets for the rich and just pretend that it was okay and that God would save you, just like these farmers. It's like God's going to save us because we're Christian and we're white and we vote Republican and someone's got to save us. And that entity is God, or even better, the lottery. But when no one's coming to save you, what do? Well, if you need to know that answer, just take a little drive in your Promobile and look around your city and see all the people that didn't make it. I can walk in any direction from my current house 5 minutes and I can start just counting them. In fact, last year, I rode my bike down the street towards the Tempe Town Lake and I must have counted 100 people. I think that was around the time where they were still allowed to live in the wilderness area below the Tempe Town Lake spillway. There were literally hundreds of people living down there, and some of them for more than 10 years. I think that the news talked about a guy who'd been living down there for 20, but that area has been like that since I was a little kid. It's always been like that. This is even before they filled the Tempe Town Lake, which I think was around the year 2000, I think, around that year. And there's always people going to live in the wilderness because they can't afford to be a part of society. But now that it's creeping up, that you're working and you have to live in the wilderness or in a tent or behind a building, wherever you're forced to hide at night in order to continue being alive. Because just because you don't have money doesn't mean you cease to exist. Although in Canada, you can apply for certain permissions based on your conditions, your lifestyle, in order to exit because it's considered cruel. I mean, if they had that plan in the US, if you were to go around to the cities, to the large cities, and ask people, it's like, well, we have a solution, and you have two choices. You can continue to live like this, or you can go with sweet Jesus. I think that it might be a plan because at this point, no one's coming in to rescue poor people, and no one wants to suffer the indignity of sleeping in your own dew. And that's our only solution. There is none other. They will not fix this problem because there isn't enough interest. But the blight of homelessness is still among us. How do we clean it? Simple enough, by eliminating it. If for some reason you lost your job tomorrow and you became homeless, there's the solution in place would be to turn every single person who can't afford housing into a criminal and then into Soylent Green. Let's get into talking point number 2. In one America, rent hikes, medical bills, and low wages are your reality. In the other America, billionaires deduct private jets as business expenses and get tax breaks for yachts. You're told universal health care and socialism we can't afford, but subsidies for oil companies and stadiums, totally normal. We don't have one economy. We have a split screen. Your side is survival mode. Theirs is cheat mode with unlimited lives. And that's how we all wake up in the morning. We all wake up to survival. Am I going to make enough money this week so that I can continue living indoors? If not, well, then you get tossed into extra survival, where every day you're fighting to keep yourself alive out there in the urban jungle. And it's not easy, people. It is not easy, and it was never designed to be easy unless you had someone that was constantly giving you resources. If you're a person, especially a young person or a person that doesn't have many skills, if your aptitude puts you in a job where you're making minimum wage, chances are your survival mode is going to be horrendous. It's going to be to the point where you're going to start thinking about just laying down. And I have seen people do this. I have been riding my bike around the city and I've seen a homeless person just lay down on their face and just give up right in front of a business. In fact, I took a picture of this over by the pawn shop one time where I couldn't understand. He had nothing with him. It looked like he'd just become freshly homeless. And all he did, he needed a place to sleep. So he just laid down on the sidewalk face first and he went to sleep. I was rolling around last night in my bed, not being able to find a place to sleep. Like I got rid of my comforter yesterday on my bed, and for some reason that was enough to throw me off and make the night completely uncomfortable for sleep. Can you imagine having to sleep on the sidewalk face first? An awful, awful world that we live in. All right, let's close this out. So yeah, it's socialism for them and wage slavery for you. They get parachutes made of gold. We get paychecks made of dust. And every time they tell you the system is working, just remember, it's only working on you. That's the joke. You're the punchline. And until we stop laughing alone, the cage door stays locked. That's it, people. I've said this throughout many years. The proletariat is strong together, but the proletariat has been indoctrinated to hate poverty, to see people who aren't winning as losers. And I carry a big L on my forehead every day. I also carry a big load behind me of poverty like a giant stone. No matter how hard you pull against poverty, you can never get away. Because the only way to get out of poverty is to pay your way out. And unfortunately, the McPaycheck isn't paving the way out of poverty for any person at the lower spectrum. In fact, it's taking in more and more people. It has gravitational pull at this point. Poverty is sucking us all in, and on the other side of it is homelessness.